This breakdown is powered by Conductor OSS at conductros.com. It works with the coding agents already in your setup, runs fully local, and the repo is github.com/sharonix06/conductoross. Anthropic just gave Claude something much more important than prettier charts. It gave Claude the ability to build interactive visuals right inside the conversation. That sounds cosmetic until you realize what changed. Most AI chats still explain everything with paragraphs, maybe a code block, maybe an artifact off to the side. This new flow lets Claude decide that a concept is easier to understand as a visual, then build that visual inline while the conversation is still happening. That pushes Claude a step closer to being a real thinking surface instead of just a text box. The blog post is very explicit about the distinction. These are not artifacts. Artifacts are the polished outputs Claude makes for sharing, reusing, or downloading later. These new visuals are temporary. They live inside the conversation, update as the discussion changes, and may disappear when they are no longer useful. That is a subtle, but important product decision. Anthropic is treating visuals as part of the reasoning layer, not just the deliverable layer. In practice, that means Claude can explain something, notice that the explanation would land better visually, and generate a chart, diagram, or interactive view without kicking you into a separate workflow. Watch the actual demo. It opens with the line, "Sometimes you just have to see it," which is basically the whole pitch. The first conversation is with someone named Andrea asking what life might look like if they major in architecture, urban planning, or real estate development. Claude starts with text, then turns that into a branching visual so the options become easier to compare. Next, the video shifts into a more technical example, asking what a building really looks like under load. Claude first answers in words, then generates a bridge-style structural diagram, and over the next beats it becomes more explicit with arrows, supports, and load direction. That is the strongest educational example in the whole clip. After that, the demo moves into a site or shadow study. The user asks whether a large structure would cast a shadow over nearby housing at sunset, and Claude produces a sun and shadow visualization with a more spatial, scenario-based layout. Then the last major example becomes personal. The user says they are graduating next week and keeps thinking about how everything started with a yellow sticky note and a vacant lot nobody believed in. Claude turns that into a visual timeline, moving from the original sketch through planning and community momentum toward the finished project. That range is the real story. This is not one chart feature. It is Claude choosing the right visual form for the question. Anthropic says this feature is in beta and available on all plan types. It is on by default. Claude can decide on its own when a visual helps, or the user can explicitly ask with prompts like "draw this as a diagram" or "visualize how this might change over time." The company also gives two simpler examples in the post: compound interest curves and an interactive periodic table. And they frame this as part of a broader push toward richer response formats. Recipes now show up in a more purpose-built layout. Weather answers can include visuals. Claude can also interact directly with tools like Figma, Canva, and Slack. So the real pattern is that Anthropic is slowly breaking the one-format answer model. Not every question deserves plain text. The big product insight here is that there is a middle layer between a paragraph and a polished artifact. That middle layer is working memory made visible. If Claude can sketch the concept while it explains it, the interaction gets closer to a whiteboard session and farther from autocomplete with manners. That matters for learning, decision-making, planning, design, engineering, and storytelling. And it matters strategically because it makes Claude feel more like a collaborator than a summarizer. The killer feature is not that Claude can draw. It is that Claude can decide when drawing is the better way to think. Now, the obvious caveat is that visuals can create false confidence just as easily as paragraphs can. A clean diagram can still hide a weak assumption. A nice interactive chart can still oversimplify the problem. And because these inline visuals are temporary, users still need a path into artifacts or other outputs when they want something polished and persistent. But the direction is smart. Also, if you want the local-first orchestration angle behind this video, check out Conductor OSS at conductros.com and the public repo at github.com/sharonix06/conductoross. The repo already shows native Claude code, codecs, and Gemini flows, and the whole point is that it works with your current coding agents while staying fully local. If you want a local command center for coding agents, check Conductor OSS at conductoros.com. It works with the agents already in your setup, runs fully local, and the repo is github.com/sharonix06/conductoross.